Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here on the call, my longtime colleague Joshua Wilkie in the production booth, and we'd like to welcome Tom Dillon, our new colleague that will be joining us from here on out for the Radical Esports Cup. And all you fans out there of Racing Ron Mons, never fear, he is all over Apex Racing TV. In fact, you can see him on the weekend covering these Radicals in the Radical Americas and European Cup. But moving right along, the start of today's show, the Radical SR10. 425 horsepower, 725 kilos, no traction control, no ABS. And folks, we are showing the top split of the public server today at 2100 GMT, as we do every Friday. So this is not a league event. This is not a public event. These Radicals look like fun to you. Go ahead and sign up and give them a whirl, and you may appear with us here on Apex Racing TV. And I'll tell you, as I tell you every week, these cars are a handful, but mastery of the SR10 will make you better at every car that you drive, and we have a fantastic schedule ahead. Road America, Watkins Glen, Imola, Mount Panorama, Mosport, Barber, Sebring, and circle this one, folks, the Nürburgring Nordschleife at night under the moon and stars. So it is going to be a wild one, and you're going to enjoy the hell out of that, as will we. So round two brings us to Rudskogen. This is Norway's oldest asphalt circuit. Get this, built in 1990 when the Norwegians pried themselves out of the rally cars and decided to pour some asphalt. This is the place they came up with. It is 3.2 clicks long, or 2 miles, 14 corners. It is host to TCR Denmark, Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia, and GT4 Scandinavia. And people who think that this looks like a go-kart track to them, guess what? The race lap record of 123.179 was set in a superkart in 2014. So that record has stood for 10 years, despite the fact that these 992 Porsche Cup cars are out here. So crazy stuff. It's a very interesting track. It is a challenging track. And Tom, I'll tell you that this track is going to be well suited to some of the things that Radical does well. And I'm thinking of that downhill charge into those first couple corners and that long opportunity to trail brake. These things are great trail braking. And there's a couple spots where the Radicals are having to do something they don't like to do, and that is woeing up for that very difficult low speed turn 11, I think it is, hard on the brakes, and coming out of that, putting the power down in first gear is very tough in these things with no TC. So what are you looking for out of these drivers today?
Well, it's going to be interesting. This is one of those tracks that's got a lot of medium speed corners. If you go through turn 8, turn 9, all corners like turn 3 and turn 4 as well, all relatively medium speed. The Radicals don't tend to actually cope particularly well with that. As you said, they very much like to be sort of spooled up and you know, get those long trail breakings in. So picking your spot going to be important today. This is an example of one of those corners here as Marco Weaver makes his way out on his lap, second at the moment, just a tenth of a second behind Barry Weaver. 14 corners this track as well, so it's very, very technical. Will be very, very difficult to overtake, but you've got a big braking zone down into turn 1. That's going to give the drivers plenty of opportunity to try and make those moves. The slipstream out of turn 14 going to be crucial. We're riding on board right now with Marco Weaver, who's making his way round at the back end of the circuit. You can see just here he's having to meander out to the far side of the track before getting him set up for turn 14 as he goes down now the front straight to take to cross the line, and I believe he's going to finish that lap. I didn't quite see whether he was able to jump up on the timing screen, and he wasn't, so he stays where he is at 1:16.8. But you can just see from his on board how difficult it is around this circuit. I have to say, we've mentioned this before, relatively niche circuit. JR, I hadn't heard of it before today's broadcast, and to be honest with you, maybe it's one of those hidden gems.
Yeah, I think it is. It's probably a love it or hate it situation, Tom, and something that I think probably bears mentioning is you really have to be well familiar with the track limits here, because there are some brutal slowdowns. You definitely have to drive up on the curves, drive on some of the green painted areas, but if you go just a hair too far, you can get some 2, 3, 4, even 5-second slowdown penalties that will be race enders in the short race with these very equally matched cars. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. And yeah, here's Denis Kyriakopoulos working on his qualifier, and this is the corner here that I think we may have some trouble. Turn 10, very tough to get the power down, going uphill there out of that low speed corner. Kyriakopoulos just needs to shave off a tiny bit to move ahead of Gonzaga, and we've got quite a few of our Radical frequent flyers here, and we'll see if he is able to improve. And I'm going to say no with him parked there on the side of the track. So that is going to wind up qualifying. We'll have your grid ready for you here in just one moment.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff, wasn't it, in that qualifying session? Once again, very, very close in the Radicals, and only 900ths of a second in between our top two. James Barry and Marco Weaver will make up your first row of the grid. Andreas Frederick out of Germany is in third place with Keshi Larsen with a Norwegian at his home track on row 2. Then it's Sadi Ratinen on row 3 alongside Jorge Gonzaga. Dennis Kirkapopoulos is in 7th position with Franco Sanchez in 8th. Samir Kachudra and Daniel Silva, I should say. I apologise, reading a few of these names for the first time. They make up your top 10, JR.
Alrighty, and in 11 and 12 there's Mika Hulkinen, one of my favorite names here on this grid. In P12, Enzo Lorenzato, and behind him in the final row will be Heinz Braun and Christopher Yanakis, as we are counting down here to take the green. And looking down at the grid there, it looks like Barry is going to have, yeah, that's him there on your left. He's going to have the inside position, theoretical advantage into turn 1. Turn 1 very tricky here. It's a place again where you have to cut a lot of the inside corner on entry, and if you cut too much you can get a brutal slowdown there, and then the long thrilling downhill charge into that first combination of corners. And that's I'm looking at my track map here. Yeah, it's 3 and 4 with some heavy trail braking, and we are green. They're going to get away clean. Looks like Barry is going to maintain that P1 with Weaver, from Friedrich, from Larson, from Wright, and it looks like Friedrich actually snuck past Weaver there, and looks like they got away fairly clean. Still a little side-by-side action through that mini carousel as we approach that really wicked downhill. The Radicals will get into 6th gear here, and heavy trail braking, a long right-hander, trail braking to get it woed up to go up the hill into this lower section. And these laps are going to go by quick, folks, and they are going to be action-packed as always.
Yeah, constantly beating the real-life lap record by about 6 seconds here throughout the course of this race. And it's been a pretty clean start for the time being. You see the track map on the right-hand side of your screen. But as expected, a little bit processional here through the middle sector of the lap as they head around now into that third sector. A little bit of a look down the inside there. No real way through, a bit of two-wide action further back in the field as well. But once again, most drivers opting to, I imagine, wait till turn one. But this is a move here, as down the inside we see a move. I believe that's from the number 13 car, getting past the number 6. A good move for him up into that extra position. And the thing now is you really want to be making sure that you're in the train. If you lose touch with that slipstream down into turn one, you find yourself struggling a little bit throughout the race, I am sure. But look at the gap that our race leader has got, JR. He's already gained what I can imagine is about a second on the first lap, and as he goes down into turn one for the second time in this race, James Barry doing a fantastic job. 1.4 seconds across the line. Your top 5, Weaver, Frederick, Larson and Gonzaga. There's been a spinner, and I believe it's Lorenzato who's fallen down the order a little bit. Daniel Silver as well getting caught out a little bit in all of that carnage. We'll see if we can get a replay of what happened there, but Enzo Lorenzato and Daniel Silver both having a little incident. I'm hearing we haven't got anything on our telemetry, so it could just be a case of they went wide, maybe went a little bit deep into the braking zone, and that's exactly what happened.
As we can see go, and we're taking a look at Hulken in there, and yeah, look at that red. He probably picked up the slowdown in that first corner. I told you the slowdowns here were absolutely brutal, and that's probably a good explanation of him pulling over and letting those other cars beside. But my goodness, you're right, Tom. Look at James Barry. He has stretched that gap to 1.8 seconds already. And Barry finished on our season podium last season and was season champion on the previous season. So he is no stranger to running at the sharp end of the field here, and he is showing his domination here of Rudskogen. And right there, that's an area where if you go wide, iRacing will slap you hard with the slowdown. Barry's still making pace, but you've got to be very, very careful in that initial section. Very tough stuff here.
Yeah, exactly, and the field behind him starting to close up a little bit. We're on board with Andreas Frederick, as I said earlier, out of Germany, trying to chase down his fellow countryman in Weaver just ahead of him as they go down through the chicane. Looks like he's going to gain a little bit of time here, just making sure that he chucks the car into the corners, really. Then it's a bit of a late apex here into the left-hander, and he'll try and get that exit, but again, you're not really looking to overtake at this part of the track. We're into, interestingly, a DRS zone before they hit the brakes hard for the final couple of corners here, and I think he'll be trying to set himself up for a run down into turn one. That seems to be the most realistic overtaking opportunity. Here we go, final 2 corners, turn 13, then you sort of loop around into turn 14. I'm trying to find my spot on the track. This is turn 14 now, through turn 13. We'll see what Andreas can do here. There's also been a move as Cadora gets past Broader now out of the final corner. Andreas Frederick trying to set himself up for that run down into turn one, but I think he's got the run a little bit wrong, and while he'll have the slipstream, don't think he'll get the run fastest lap of the race for Weaver. Through into turn one they go, and once again, no flickering on our screen isn't quite a way through. We have got a picture of that pass though from Samir Cadora as he goes around the outside. Was there a little bit of blinking going on in that pass? Not really sure what's going on there. That's a little bit interesting.
Oh, and yeah, Cadora is out, so blinking in and out of reality there. Woke up in the wrong place on the track, and it looks like he has stuffed it, although he is still underway. He's showing up on my timing tower as crashed out as we watch Andreas Friedrich here. And yeah, the draft is very, very strong in these cars, as you pointed out, Tom. But one of the things the drivers that we spoke to last week were looking forward to about this track was that it wasn't going to be one of those heavy draft dependent tracks. So this front straightaway, not really long enough to see the massive draft that we see at some other tracks like Road America and Monzo that we were late, where we saw these cars late last season. So yeah, here we are again looking. Kira Akapolis looking forward to writing in, and you can watch that gap. It's about 0.4 right now. and coming down a little, not really much, and we have not really seen a lot of overtake attempts there into turn one. It's very tight stuff, and we may be kind of nose to tail here for a lot of this race, where the drivers are just following closely, trying to pressure the driver ahead into making a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barry, by the way, set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. So 5 minutes into the contest, lap 5 of 19. And your race leader at the moment is setting the pace. Only about a tenth of a second faster than Weaver when you've already got a second and a half or so in hand. It all adds a little bit to help. Here is Solly Rattiner trying to catch up to that car just ahead of him with Sanchez, but at the moment having to really get the hammer down. He's not quite close enough to start to put that pressure on. In fact, I think Sanchez, we're looking at the Gonzaga just ahead of him, the Portuguese driver, see if he can do anything. But the field right now seems to be relatively spread out. The gaps come back onto your screen, 1.5 at the top of the order. No mistake about it, James Berry hasn't won this race yet. He might be dominating it, relatively speaking, for how close the Radicals tend to be, but he has still got a very big chance of losing out on this lead if something happens later on into the day. If you were watching last night when we covered another league here on Apex Racing TV, it was a similar story. We had a driver 3 seconds out in the lead of the race, made a mistake, and all of a sudden he found himself out of the equation. That was over in the DRSCCA series here in the Radicals. Similar style of racing with all of our close cars. I don't really know what my point there was. This is interesting. We've got a fastest lap for Franco Sanchez. So actually, race leader no longer has the fastest lap of the race, and Sanchez goes 16.3.
Yeah, and take a look at Heinz Braun there. On the last lap, he managed to get by Kyriakopoulos, and he is our current hard charger. He's moved up to P8 from his qualifying position of P13. So Braun putting down some fast laps. He's about half a second behind that hot lap that Sanchez just put down. But we'll keep an eye on him, and it looks like his next potential victim is Reitinen, and Kyriakopoulos out now. Something, although he's still rolling, but a crash definitely registered on our timing tower, and now it looks like he has got Hulkinen sniffing around on his inside. See what happened with Denis here, and it may be, yeah, this is that low speed corner. Very tough to get the power down here. Oh, and he had some help. He had some help from Lorenzado there, a little love tap on the inside, and he's not going to be happy about that, I wouldn't think.
No, he won't, and the nature of how these cars race, you can quite easily find yourself just having a little bit of a love tap, and then they're so unstable as it is that any bit of help will send that car around. But the big thing here is that we've got a few battles going on out on the track. We're just watching all. This one perhaps a little bit closer. It's between Rattinen just at the front of this trade. White car for those who are trying to spot it. Just behind him is under pressure from Braun. Braun is really all over the back of him and starting to put that pressure on. Tries to take a wider line into the left-hander, but on the exit of the corner again, not really able to find much of a run. He's just got to rely here on perhaps Rattinen getting a little bit dirty air from the cars just ahead of them. These Radicals don't have a great deal of aerodynamic force, but they have just enough where dirty air can start to be a factor, and Rattinen looking a little bit untidy here, missing a couple of apexes. This is giving Heinz Braun the chance to try and set up a run here out of turn 14, or try and get the tighter line through the corner to get the better exit. By the looks of things, he's got a little bit of a better exit. We'll see what can happen down into turn 1. He's a little bit too far back to really start to think about a move now. It's about 8 tenths of a second or so. Braun down into turn 1. He thought about the move, I think, there, but sensibly backs out of it.
Yeah, Braun showing his nose there. And one thing I didn't mention at the outset, there is another thing that these Radicals are really good at that this track is going to highlight, and that is blowing the tires off of these cars. The front particularly, all these slow speed kind of understeery corners are very, very rough on these tires, and tire management can rear its head during these Radical races. So we'll keep an eye on that. Particularly somebody like Braun, who's pushing, and trying to position himself for those passes. He may run out of tires before this one's over, but looking good right now in P8. And Yanakis also has moved up 5 positions as behind Braun there in 9th.
Absolutely, and we have a look at Christopher Yanakis, the Canadian, driving the number 10 car at the moment. A pretty quiet race for him. He's got the two battling ahead of him. They'll be hoping Braun and Rattanen do start to have a battle, because if so, he can start to catch up and encroach in on those that 7th position or so. Obviously, the interesting thing here is that this is the top split of quite a fair amount of drivers. So for a driver to be in 14th position, it's actually quite high up in regards to the world. Once again, Braun is going to show his nose. Track extends a little bit into turn 1, looking to get away without a slowdown penalty there, or is he? Falls off the back, certainly really starting to hammer that number 6 car, isn't he? Trying to get this move. Also a move for Hulkinen, who gets past Karakalopoulos into turn 1. He's through now as they go down the downhill section, and we've got a replay of this move for you. Actually, it was down into turn 1 by the looks of things. Actually stays behind now through turn 1 into turn 2. I suspect he'll be looking to make this move a little bit wide, shows the door and leaves the door open, and Hulkinen is happy to take that one. It's a patient move, one that I think actually arises more of a mistake from his opponent than anything else.
Yeah, it would appear so. And my goodness, back to Braun and Raitanen, and Braun feeling the pressure. You saw that wiggle there. You saw a couple other ones, and it is over as Braun sticks that radical past Raitanen, and now Yanakis looking forward to see if he can get a piece as well. My goodness, yeah, we're going to have another look at that and watch Raitanen here, or we're going to ride along with Braun, but watch Raitanen lose grip here. This is the tough corner I was talking about, just that little wiggle, and we saw him fighting for grip in this radical while taking pressure from behind, and finally Braun able to get it done, and Yanakis now looking forward and smacking his lips, although something's happened to Yanakis off. Oh my goodness, commentators cursing. He's through the grass and into the barrier. Not sure what happened to Yanakis, but he was lining himself up to snack on Raitanen next, and he's not going to get that opportunity now.
He's not down into turn 1. Has he just got it? Oh, he's got a bit over-eager on the, took a bit too much speed into the corner and doesn't rejoin particularly well either. That's quite ugly, and I think the good thing for him is that he's not seemingly got too much damage from that, just a slightly her ego, I would imagine. Here's Franco Sanchez trying to start to attack Gonzaga in the number 1 car. If I know iRacing correctly, that means that Franco Sanchez actually makes himself arguably the favourite to win this race, the way that the numbers are calculated. You can tell me if I'm talking total nonsense on that, but he'll try and get himself into the top 5 here regardless, with a good exit out of turn 14. Fantastic shot of the blimp as Gonzaga slightly blinks out of existence for a moment there. Down into turn 1 they go, and it's quite a big gap between the two of them. One other thing for your information is that second place Weaver at the moment caught up by 1/10 of a second on that last lap. Not quite enough just yet, but enough to start to put that pressure on James Barry. Here we go, down into the downhill section of the track. Franco Sanchez still trying to put that pressure on, and he's got a little bit of a run, but the problem is it's such a heavy braking zone. Maybe he has a little bit of a look to the outside line here. He's catching up so much, gets a bit of a tidier line through the corner, but again, this is one of those tracks so difficult to overtake on. Shows his nose once again, but has to stay behind. And it does seem to me that if you can soak up the pressure here, you're going to do very well on this racetrack.
Yeah, and Gonzaga, no stranger to this kind of pressure. He's one of our frequent flyers here, and Sanchez, no stranger to turning up the wick and getting some work done out here on the track. We've seen him do it many times, and you can see that he has chipped away at Gonzaga's lead. That gap's down to about 0.3, 0.4, and we'll check his run here out of 14. So critical to get a good launch here and to get a good run down the straightaway. You see Sanchez diamonding off the end of that corner. He's hard on the power now. He's going to use all the exit, little wiggle there, and that loss of traction is going to blow his opportunity this time. We're starting lap 13, so he's going to have a few more cracks at it, but you will eventually run out of tires and run out of time in these radicals, so probably kicking himself for being a little unjudicious with the throttle on that exit.
James Barry then 1.9 seconds. I said he was just getting caught up to a little bit, and then goes even faster. 1.9 seconds now his gap. So it has been a dominant drive so far, but there's a few laps to keep going here. Roughly translates to about 5 minutes for those interested on the clock as we go through. And well, Weaver in second position. Now that gap goes to 2 seconds, 2.7 seconds back to Frederick. So actually that battle for second position and third position starting to hop up, JR.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We're kind of getting down to crunch time here, and you'll see some of these drivers have been saving their tires for the end here. As I said, very high tire degradation on this track with these low-speed corners, and some of these guys, as they see the light at the end of the tunnel here, will start turning up the wick, and some of these battles are going to heat up. And you see Larson there. He's sniffing around behind Friedrich. He's got that gap down to about 0.4, and Friedrich is sitting right now in his qualifying position, but getting some pressure from behind. And Sanchez looks like he got it done on Gonzaga there as he continues to work his way up. He's now up 3 from his qualifying position, and now looking ahead to Larson, and there's Daniel Silva. Looks like he has looped it, and I'm not sure what happened there. We're going to take a quick look, and here we are on that carousel. You have to be patient here. Patient. Looks like he dials up the throttle a little soon. Maybe gets a little bit too much of that inside curb. Daniel, hold your brakes, but manages to avoid getting speared on the exit there. Holy cow. Lucky for Silva and for the other competitors that found him there across the track.
Yeah, have to be so aware, even in a relatively small grid like this one, have to be so aware of just someone spinning in front of you. Here is a battle then. This is that battle for second position that we were talking about a few moments ago. Only about 0.8 of a second separating the entirety of second to fourth as James Barry continues to build his lead up to 2.2 now. And as you go out of turn 14, maybe there is a chance here for Larson to get onto the podium inside of his home circuit here in Norway, but again, not really able to get that run. He closes up a little bit on the brakes, but it's so difficult to really start to put that pressure on around this track, especially when you've got a guy just ahead of the guy you're trying to battle with. But there's a little bit of a mistake that might allow Larson to make a move, but again, he recovers quite well. But as you said, JR, so difficult to get the throttle down in these cars. A few of our drivers struggling with that, but Larson is attacking this a lot. You can see just how much speed he's carrying in the corners.
Yeah, you absolutely can, and pretty interesting. I'm not sure if we've seen a successful overtake there in turn 1, maybe one, but it's a really tough corner. As I pointed out, the curb is mandatory. You absolutely have to bounce the car over the curb. That's something the Radicals don't really like at all. So you have to cut that corner to get a good line through there and get a good exit, but not really a good open door for passing. It's really narrow, and the car is upset bouncing through there. So pretty interesting that we have not seen any dives there, but the draft really not working the way that we sometimes see it work on the bigger tracks.
Yeah, exactly. I think part of it is the nature of that final corner. It doesn't really set you up for the run, as you're spending most of that straight getting up to speed. Don't really get the run running in those high reps as you go down into turn 1, whereas when we go to the Nordschleife later in the season, you'll see just how powerful the draft can be. But it doesn't stop Frederick being under pressure here from the Norwegian as they go down the hill this time. He's able to gain out into that downhill section a couple of attempts or so. Ratanen's just jumped up all the way into 10th position. Interesting to see what happened there. Hulkonen and Yanakis, by my reckoning, dropped down a little bit, but obviously if we do have any events or replays, we'll be able to get that to you. Here we go. Let's have a look at what happened there. So there looks like there was some kind of tangle. Hulkonen, did he maybe make a little bit of a mistake as he goes on the exit of the corner? He does, and the second you're in the grass, you're just a passenger in these cars. He saves it relatively well, hitting the wall. I don't think he'll gain too much damage on that. And it sounds like he got enough damage, actually. As I said, he might get away with it. It looks like he got enough damage that actually he ended up having 2 other crashes. Let's see what happens through here. The cars can be quite difficult, and right now it looks okay. But back to the point, you get that little bit of damage, and it just starts to unravel for you.
Yeah, Hulkonen with a hard shot into the Armco. These Radicals are a little tougher than they look. We see him take some pretty hard shots and continuing, but certainly lost him some positions. And let's take a look back at that front battle between Weaver, Friedrich, and Larson. And you know that Barry is enjoying this battle as he's watching his relative, and his gap ahead of Weaver is increasing now up to 3 seconds, and Larson showing his nose on the inside there, under braking. Larson wanting a piece a piece of Friedrich there, and Friedrich fighting. Looks like Weaver got a little loose there on this tight left-hander over the hill, another very difficult corner. It's a low-speed corner in second gear. The car lightens up across the apex. You got to keep it inside on the curb to get a good exit, and such a challenging course for these high-powered and relatively low-grip radicals as we're riding along. Great camera shot here from our producer, Josh, riding with Friedrich, looking back at Larson, still sniffing around. We're about to start lap 17 of 19, so Larson's going to make something happen. He's running out of time, but he's got a nice, looking nice and close here, and a decent run out of 14. See if he can make something happen here in turn 1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think through turn 1 he's going to be particularly concerned, as on not the penultimate lap, the one before that of the race, Barry sets the fastest lap once again, 3.5 seconds now his gap. And again, for my liking, Andreas Frederick actually quite comfortable right here. JR, as we switch to our race leader to see him in quite a bit of clean air. As I said, for my liking, Frederick here actually not under as much pressure as you think because of the nature of how this track is. If he can just stay disciplined, stay driving the correct defensive lines, he should be okay. His danger now is that as there's a car just ahead of him that's sort of closing him up, he needs to not get too greedy and start to attack that car, because that would just bring Larson back into this fight.
Yeah, it will, and we have seen Friedrich. He may be today the highest rated driver on the grid at about 6,000 R rating, but we have seen Friedrich kind of overdrive the car when he gets under pressure late or wants to make something happen late. So if he ends up in the grass here as a result of this fighting, it won't be the first time that we've seen that out of him. Very fast driver, pretty good car control, but likes to turn up the wick when things get tense, and sometimes gets bitten for doing that, as we see this trio enter turn 1 again. This will be the second to last time here as we're beginning turn 18, or lap 18 rather. And again, these cars separated by about 3/10 of a second between 2, 3, and 3 to 4, so about 6/10 between all of them, and this battle rages on here, and Larson may be getting frustrated and getting tired of looking at the back of Friedrich's car at this point.
Well, you have to be quite careful, because at one point you do decide to just chuck it down the inside, and that really badly affects you. And here again, Frederick just gets a little bit impatient. That loses him a little bit of time, and now actually brings Larson back into the fight, but Larson a couple of car lengths behind, so it's not actually a huge problem for him. And now as he continues to follow through, you can see a little bit of grass on the track as they go through this part of the circuit. Marco Weaver finding himself under a fair bit of pressure into turn 14 for what will turn into, I would suspect, the penultimate time of this race, and well, gives us a big chance. As here goes James Barry. He's going to start his final lap of the race, this time by. White flag is in the air. That's going to give one more opportunity down into turn 1 for these guys to start to battle for that final podium spot, or even the second podium spot. And into turn 1 they stay line of stern once again, so no way through for anyone right now. Andreas Frederick, as Sanchez is out of the race on the final lap of the race. Ono reinstated back into 5th position. It's just a little bit of a timing bug there, but as they make their way down through the tree line of the downhill section of the circuit again, everyone just staying line of stern, JR.
Yeah, and oh my goodness, almost contact there. And I really was feeling like Larson had something planned here for Friedrich, but that little slowdown there by Weaver might have foiled him. I think he was kind of pondering that corner that we just saw them almost make contact in, and Larson really running out of chances now. About the only thing left for him is a dive down into this very difficult downhill, low-speed corner. Yeah, that's not going to happen for him. So at this point, he just needs to keep it on the track and be happy with that P4. And very difficult to get passes done here, as we've seen. Most of the positions gained have been through mishaps by the person ahead, as opposed to contested corners. And meanwhile, here is Barry, and this has turned into a track day for him. The fighting behind has extended his gap to 6 seconds. So a snoozer for Barry, and that is it. A pretty good show by Weaver, Friedrich, and Larson, and Sanchez will round out the top 5 there. And Sanchez with a pretty good push up from his qualifying position, and Braun's going to remain the hard charger. He moved up to P7 all the way from P13, so he probably had a few legit passes in there, but definitely had some people having some spins and having some offs through the course of that one on this very, very difficult course.
And a statement of intention with a fantastic fastest lap on the final lap of the race as well from Barry. So a really dominant drive from him. Only 25 minutes in all. That race made very good time. Oh, fastest lap of the race, no more because Braun steals it away on the final lap of the race. That's interesting. 7th position, randomly taking the fastest lap away, but I don't think James Barry will be too disappointed with that. Obviously, you don't get points, well, for anything in this series, but for fastest lap as well. Let's take a look at your results then once they come up on to the screen. It's been a very interesting day here in Norway, one of Norway's only outdoor circuits, of course, only asphalt circuits, of course. James Barry taking a dominant victory by 5.8 seconds in all at the end of that race, in part due to Marco Weaver having to get on the defensive ahead of Andreas Frederick and Keshi Larsen that make up the rest of your top 4. Franco Sanchez had a relatively quiet day in 5th, but did have to get himself past Jorge Gonzaga, who himself was under a lot of pressure from Heinz Braun in 7th towards the end of that race. Enzo Lorenzato is in 8th position with Dennis Karankopoulos in 9th. Then it's Sauli Rattanen in 10th. And in 11th position is Samir Kadora Cad with Mikko Hulkkonen in 12th position. Christopher Yanakis and Daniel Silva are the rest of your grid. JR Gregory, that was, I'm going to say, an interesting race. It wasn't one where we saw 1,500 different overtakes over the course of the race, but it was one where we definitely saw enough interesting race strategy to keep it entertaining throughout the entirety of the 19 laps.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and we saw a lot of people get close. We saw a lot of people presenting their noses inside and thinking about different moves, but man, a tough place to get a pass done. We only saw a handful of legit passes, as I said. The rest were taking advantage of the misfortunes of others to move up in this one. And the drivers told us last week that they were looking forward to this track because it was a technical circuit. It would be difficult to pass, and it wouldn't be so draft dependent as we have some of the other tracks on the schedule. So a pretty good one here today. And looking outside, it looks like we do have our winner waiting to speak to us, James Barry. So we will go ahead and bring him into the commentary booth. And James Barry, nice run today. This one turned into a track day for you. You immediately, I'd say by the end of the first lap, had about a 1.5 second gap behind you. And were you expecting to be able to drive away like that?
Yeah, sorry, I only heard half your question because I didn't have my audio on the right thing. But yeah, I expected that I was going to have good pace here because I knew I've been practicing and it's been a really good pace here. I've had a really good feeling for the track. So yeah, it went about how I planned it, to be honest.
Oh, well, nice. Yeah, it was an outstanding drive. And when you go back and watch the broadcast later, you're going to see that the other drivers had a lot of difficulties getting passes set up and done on this course. So I know that you were in the front and didn't have to confront this problem, but where do you think the good passing spots were that people were really struggling to get moves done here?
Well, yesterday I was doing the UK League and we had a reverse grid feature race where I was starting in 10th and I had to do some overtakes, and you have to be really opportunistic. I did one into the last corner, I did one into the hairpin halfway through the lap. But you can only really do them if the driver in front of you makes a mistake or is slow or isn't expecting the line that you're going to take. So
yeah, well, great job, James, and it's good to see you back on the podium. We haven't had you here in the commentary booth for a while. And looking ahead at the schedule, is there anything that's standing out for you, anything that you're looking forward to coming up ahead on the Radical Esports Cup?
I think every track is going to bring some really good racing. It's going to be more slipstream, more overtakes than there was this week. So I think every track on the schedule we can look forward to.
All right, fantastic. And what is your favorite track on the remaining schedule, just out of curiosity?
I don't know, maybe Alton Park is one that everyone likes. I mean, I don't know. I like the ones where I do well, so I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. Well, that's certainly an honest response, and we appreciate that. And as we wrap it up here, James, is there anybody you would like to thank or give a shout out to this afternoon?
Yeah, shout out to you guys for always being here and putting these podcasts on for us. This really brings us all together for these strength of field races. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. And thanks for coming by to see us. And feel free to stop by anytime after one of these races. Always good to hear your insights. So that was our winner, James Barry, from today, round 2 here at Rudskogen. And as I said, some interesting stuff coming up. And we are not just about these radicals here on Apex Racing TV. We have some of the best tracks, best cars, and best esports drivers in the iRacing service on YouTube almost every day. So coming up this weekend, Ray Esports Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior event will be at Zandvoort, and the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors will be at Sebring. And Monday, the Rickmantek World Challenge, that is mixed class racing. Where else? Sebring. Is it going to rain? I don't know. Tune in and find out. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification icon as well, so you don't miss any of the action here. And so once again, welcome, Tom Dillon. Good having you here in the booth. And what are your thoughts looking forward to the rest of this Radical season?
Well, first of all, I've had quite big shoes to fill in Ron Warren's, but glad to see him on a few of our other broadcasts. He's doing the other league with me on Thursday mornings for me, actually. So exciting to see how that gets on. But this has been fantastic. The Radicals are always entertaining. It's probably not the track that they're best suited to. I think we'll be bluntly honest with it, but as I said, it delivered some interesting racing, if not the most side-by-side action, and I'm very excited now to get into some of our more traditional tracks like Road America, Monza, and Co.
Yeah, and looking forward to it as well. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up for us today. I am J.R. Gregory on behalf of myself, Tom Dillon, and our producer, Joshua Wilkie. Thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Friday, and have a fantastic weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www